Just researching some of these guys sent a chill down my spine. I'm your host Yusuf, welcome to Crime Time. Today we're covering the 10 most feared prisoners who are still alive today. Make sure you're subscribed and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Anyways, where's the chow hall? At number 10, Hans Georg Neumann. Neumann was born the son of an intimacy worker and grew up in an urban orphanage in Kreuzberg, as well as in a foster family. On the 29th of December 1951, he was admitted to the Jugendhof Schlachtensee by a juvenile judge for various thefts. In the discharge report, the boy was described a year later as calm and kind, open-minded, and in need of love. In 1953, his foster mother passed away. He found a connection in the family of a master craftsman, where he made an apprenticeship for precision mechanics. In 1956, he embarked for Canada but was deported to Germany in 1961 after being convicted of armed robbery. On the 13th of January 1962, he kidnapped a pair of lovers sitting in a parked car in Berlin and shot them after the woman had resisted being kidnapped. He was arrested 6 days later. The man had survived badly injured and was able to identify Neumann, but passed away shortly thereafter. Neumann was sentenced to life imprisonment on the 30th of May 1963 for the double execution he committed. The trial attracted national attention. Neumann has been the longest serving prisoner in Germany with more than 56 years in prison. At number 9, Larry Raines. On May 30th, 1964, Larry, posing as a hitchhiker, was given a lift by 30-year-old Gary Albert Smock, a Plymouth school teacher passing through Kalamazoo. During the trip, Raines brandished a weapon and forced Smock to leave the car and climb into the trunk, where he subsequently locked him in. While continuing the trip, Smock attempted to get out of the car, after which Raines stopped the car, tied him up, and then shot him twice in the back of the head. He then stole $3 and other items of material value before leaving the car on the side of the road, where it was discovered a few hours later by a police officer. Over the next few months, Raines told a number of acquaintances about the execution, due to which he was arrested in the early morning of June 5th, 1964, in front of his friend's house. He offered no resistance during his arrest and readily admitted to removing Smock, with incriminating evidence such as a watch and shoes later being identified as belonging to Smock by relatives and friends. When he was taken to the police station, Raines told police that he had executed 4 others during holdups at various gas stations. He confessed to the May 30th execution of 33-year-old Charles E. Snyder in Elkhart, Indiana, the execution of an Air Force serviceman in Paw Paw, Michigan, the execution of a man in Las Vegas, Nevada, and another man in Kentucky. At number 8, Sirhan Bashara Sirhan. Around 12:15 a.m. on June 5th, 1968, Sirhan fired at United States Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the crowd surrounding him in the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, shortly after Kennedy had finished addressing supporters in the hotel's main ballroom. Authors George Plimpton, Jimmy Breslin, Pete Hamill, former professional football player Rosie Greer, and 1960 Olympic gold medalist Rafer Johnson were among several men who subdued and disarmed Sirhan after a struggle. Kennedy was shot 3 times, once in the head and twice in the back, with a 4th bullet passing through his jacket. He passed away almost 26 hours later at Good Samaritan Hospital. 5 other people at the event were also shot, all of whom recovered. Paul Schrade, an official with the United Automobile Workers Union, William Weasel, an ABC TV unit manager, Ira Goldstein, a reporter with the Continental News Service, a friend of Pierre Salinger, one of Kennedy's campaign aides, and Erwin Stroll, a teenage Kennedy volunteer. During his trial, he asked for his legal team to withdraw and confessed to the crimes multiple times and asked to be executed. Due to this odd behavior, the judge denied all of these requests. Later, he was sentenced to deceasement, but was commuted to a life sentence in 1971. Sirhan requested parole on multiple occasions and was denied a total of 15 times. At number 7, Bobby Beausoleil. Robert Kenneth Beausoleil, born November 6, 1947, is an American executioner and associate of Charles Manson and members of his communal Manson family. He was convicted and sentenced to execution for the July 27, 1969 fatal stabbing of Gary Hinman, who had befriended him and other Manson associates. Beausoleil was later granted a commutation to a lesser sentence of life imprisonment, after the Supreme Court of California issued a ruling that invalidated all execution sentences issued in California prior to 1972. During his incarceration in the California State Prison System, Beausoleil has recorded and released music. He has also worked on visual art, instrument design, and media technology. Although a parole board recommended him for parole in January 2019 in his 19th hearing for eligibility, the recommendation was denied by the governor of California. At number 6, Edmund Kemper. Edmund Emil Kemper III, born December 18, 1948, is an American executioner who sent a total of 10 people, including his own mother and her best friend, to an early grave from May 1972 to April 1973. Following his parole for executing his paternal grandparents, Kemper was nicknamed the Co-ed Executor. as most of his victims were female college students hitchhiking in the vicinity of Santa Cruz County, California. He stands at a height of 6 feet 9 inches. In North Fork, California in August 1964, at the age of 15, he executed his grandparents. Following the executions, Kemper was briefly diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia by court psychiatrists and sentenced to the Atascadero State Hospital as a criminally insane juvenile. At number 5, Patrick McKay. David Groves, better known by his birth name Patrick David McKay, born the 25th of September 1952, is a British serial executioner who is believed to be one of the United Kingdom's most prolific serial executioners. He confessed to executing 13 people across London, Essex, and Kent in England between 1973 and 1975. After retracting his confessions to 9 of the executions, he was convicted of 3 counts of manslaughter. 2 additional cases were left to lie on file, and police later found proof that he had executed one of these 2 victims. All of his confessions were found to match existing unsolved executions in and around London, and no one else has ever been arrested, charged, or convicted for these officially still unsolved crimes. In 2020, authorities launched fresh inquiries into his suspected executions, but they were unable to find sufficient evidence. Dartford MP Gareth Johnson has reportedly voiced his concerns over McKay's potential release. In July 2022, it was revealed that McKay's case had been referred to the parole board once again. He is believed to be currently imprisoned at HM Prison Leyhill near Bristol in preparation for a possible release. At number 4, Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier, born September 12, 1944, is a Native American activist and militant member of the American Indian movement, who, following a controversial trial, was convicted of 2 accounts of first-degree execution in the passing of 2 FBI agents in a June 26, 1975 shooting on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life imprisonment and has been imprisoned since 1977, currently 45 years and 6 months. Peltier was an active member of the American Indian movement, an indigenous rights advocacy group that worked to combat the racism and police brutality experienced by American Indians. Peltier ran for president of the United States in 2004, winning the nomination of the Peace and Freedom Party and receiving 27,607 votes, limited to the ballot in California. He ran for vice president of the United States in 2020 on a ticket with Gloria La Riva as the presidential candidate, as well on tickets for other left parties and on the ballot of the Peace and Freedom Party. Peltier withdrew from these tickets on August 1st, 2020 for health reasons. At number 3, Robert Maudsley. In 1974, Maudsley garroted John Farrell in Wood Green, London. Maudsley surrendered himself to police, saying he needed psychiatric care. Maudsley was found unfit to stand trial and instead went to Broadmoor Hospital. In 1977, he and another resident, David Cheeseman, locked themselves in a cell with a 3rd patient named David Francis. The attack was claimed to be in revenge for a homosexual attack on one of the friends of the 2 men. They tortured him to passing over a period of 9 hours. After this incident, Maudsley was convicted of manslaughter and sent to Wakefield Prison. He disliked the transfer and made it clear that he wanted to return to Broadmoor. Maudsley was later sentenced to life imprisonment with a recommendation that he never be released. In 1978, Maudsley eliminated 2 fellow prisoners at Wakefield Prison in 1 day. He originally set out to eliminate 7. At number 2, Ronald Allen Smith. Smith was sentenced to execution in March 1983 after he asked for the execution penalty after his conviction. 7 months earlier, he, along with an accomplice who were both under the influence of substances, executed 2 Native American men who offered them a ride while hitchhiking. They marched cousins Harvey Madman, 23, and Thomas Running Rabbit, 20, into the woods of the highway and shot them both in the head with a rifle. Smith refused a plea deal that would have seen him avoid deceased row, but spent his life in prison. He pleaded guilty 3 weeks later and then asked for and was given an execution sentence. Later, he changed his mind. Smith has had several previous execution dates, but each has been overturned. In November 2001, the United States Supreme Court denied a petition for review, and in 2010, the US Supreme Court refused to hear his final appeal. The case was sent back to the state of Montana for another date of execution. At number 1, David Carpenter. Carpenter's first attempted execution occurred in 1960, for which he spent 7 years in prison. This was committed against Lois Rinna, the mother of future television personality Lisa Rinna. He was arrested for kidnapping in 1970 and spent another 7 years behind bars. After his release, Carpenter became a suspect in the Zodiac executions, although he was eventually cleared. From 1979 to 1981, Carpenter executed 5 women in Santa Cruz County and Marin County. On May 10, 1988, a San Diego jury convicted him on 5 counts of first-degree execution in the passings of Richard Stowers, Cynthia Moreland, Shauna May, Diane O'Connell, and Ann Elderson. Carpenter was sentenced to pass away in the gas chamber and remains on deceased row in San Quentin State Prison. Following his convictions for the Marin County executions, Carpenter was tried and subsequently convicted by a Santa Cruz jury for the executions of Ellen Hansen and Heather Skaggs. Carpenter is still a suspect in the executions of 2 other people. Thanks for watching. like the video if you found it interesting, and we'll see you next time.